On our top story, Al Jazeera has put out an official statement deploring the calls for its closure. It says, "We in the network believe that any call for closing down Al Jazeera is nothing but an attempt to silence the freedom of expression in the region and to suppress people's right to information and the right to be heard. We assert our right to practice our journalism professionally without bowing to pressure from any government or authority, and we demand that governments respect the freedom of media to allow journalists to continue to do their jobs free of intimidation, threats and fear-mongering. We also call on our peers in the industry, media institutions and other international organisations to reaffirm their solidarity in defending media freedom wherever it may be." Well, joining us now for more on this story is David Hearst. He's the editor-in-chief of the Middle East Eye. Thanks very much for coming in. Obviously, the list of demands calls for the closure of Al Jazeera. What does that reveal about the rationale behind what's going on?
Well, actually, the Middle East Eye, my own website, which is a London-based website, is also on the list. And we have absolutely no connection, funding directly or indirectly, to Qatar. So if you pressurise the state of Qatar to close us down, it would have absolutely no effect. But our inclusion on the list does tell you something about the motivation and the mindset of the people who are demanding, making these demands. And that is they basically want to close down independent journalism. And we've been doing quite a lot of it as far as the Saudis and the Emiratis are concerned. I think this is an incredibly retrograde step. This is taking journalism back to the sort of 19th century. I think their view of journalism is that the journalism they want is the editorial line that they can actually write and journalists that they can buy. And in Al Jazeera or in the Middle East Eye, happily, there aren't those sort of people around.
What do you see happening next? What might be the way forward in this?
Well, it's interesting what the reaction of the State Department, America, Britain, and the EU is. They've been saying if you're going to make demands, make them actionable. And there's a very heavy hint here that these demands are not actionable.
But no one's made that explicit.
They haven't made that explicit, but they are putting out a lot of noises unofficially. That they think, particularly the Emiratis, who they feel are behind this, have bitten off a little bit more than they can chew here.
So therefore, do you envisage some sort of climb down by Saudi Arabia and their allies, or do you see something more protracted unfolding that could last for months, if not years?
I think the latter. I think we're in for a protracted dispute. I think it could cripple the GCC, and I don't think this is easily solvable, because if you look at it from the Qatari point of view, you've got to say, look, I mean, in British terms, this would be equivalent to someone saying close down the BBC. Well, no British government would accept that. Al Jazeera has been fundamentally important to the image of Qatar, but also to the image of journalism. And I think Al Jazeera has done something. I'm not saying it's a perfect organisation. I'm not saying that Qatar is some sort of democracy. It's not. But what I am saying is that Al Jazeera has broken the mould of Arab journalism. The Al Jazeera has been fundamentally an independent organisation, even though it's state-funded, whereas most Arab media is an extension in some way or other of the state or the security services. And it's been a huge benefit to the Arab people that Al Jazeera has put them first rather than the governments or the Mukhabarat or the secret police that go about their business in Jordan, in the Emirates, in Saudi Arabia. So you've got to stand up for your rights, because there's something much, much more important at stake here.
Do you see any room for, mediation efforts, some sort of negotiation?
The way the demands have been put at the moment, no. But you can never say no in this dispute. It's going to involve an awful lot of time and an awful lot of pushback as well. I think as soon as Saudi Arabia realises that actually there are consequences to this, certainly consequences to their relationship with the American military, perhaps, and there are other whispers made about America. I think America is actually an essential player in this. And I'm not just talking about the White House, I'm talking about the full panoply of pressure that could be applied. They want to live in the modern world, and they're going to have to abide by its rules.
David Hearst, editor of Middle East Eye, thank you.